Turn It On, the Level 42 fan podcast, is in no way affiliated with the band. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are solely the speaker's own.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Turn It On, the Level 42 fan podcast. We are here with our typical trio from here in the U.S., here to talk the time away with all things Level 42. I'm Bob Considine, here with the convivial Mikey Payne and the sometimes contrarian Winston and Walker, windman with many faces and many names. Gentlemen, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Good.
Hello from sunny Florida.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'm here in sunny Victoria in south of Australia.
Nice. So we're gonna introduce our guest because this is something that we've been waiting for a long time, and he's another one of those Mount Rushmore dudes for Level 42. He certainly left his mark on the sounds of the '80s, recording with the likes of Pet Shop Boys, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Nick Kershaw, The Firm, and also in the 1990s with One Sir Paul McCartney. He has mixed albums from musicians as diverse as Musical Youth, Kate Bush, Peter Gabriel, Scritti Politti, Simple Minds, Go West, and In Excess. I am out of breath already. He was nominated for a BPI Producer of the Year in 1988. And of course, we all know him as the engineer / producer of Level 42's three most successful albums, World Machine, Running in the Family, and Staring at the Sun. And we're going to get right into that. Julian Mendelsohn, we are so excited you were here. Avu to you.
Hello.
How's my Australian?
Was that Australian?
Yeah, I was wondering what you said.
Every day is a good day in Australia.
Not bad, not bad, not bad.
That means afternoon, so it's like 1 o'clock there for you.
Oh, good Arvo. Good Arvo.
Arvo.
Yeah.
Good Arvo.
Yeah, it's definitely the Arvo here. Yeah, it's a lovely day. It's a beautiful day. It's starting to get a little bit cool here.
Well, thanks so much for being here, Julian. I know it's taken a little bit to get you here, but we've. What's good about it is we've prepared. We had more time to prepare. So
Excellent. So more questions.
yeah, and I know it's a lot of this stuff was a long time ago. You're not going to remember everything, but whatever we can glean, we'll be happy. And if I could, guys, I'm going to give my earliest Julian Mendelsohn memory. This was when I was first getting into Level 42, World Machine's out, and I'm buying every import, every remix, everything I can find in the stores. And I'm just taking everything in. I'm reading and producing. I'm reading about how it's being produced or engineered by Julian Mendelsohn. I'm in high school, and I think I am above it all because everybody is into hair metal or Debbie Gibson. And I have discovered the most sophisticated pop group in the world. So my nose is up with any music conversation I have with my friends. And I somehow convinced myself by looking at all these album credits with all this obnoxious, self-righteous pretense that Julian Mendelsohn must obviously be a descendant of Felix Mendelssohn, the mid-19th century classic German composer. Julian, you can confirm this now?
No, it's not true. He has got two S's.
Yes.
I've only got one, so I lost one somewhere along the way,
Yes.
or I was never a relation. One or the other.
Yes, I realized the extra S about 3 months after I told all my friends that you were related to him. So it was quite embarrassing. Anyway, and with that, Mikey, I know you wanted to ask the first question about Julian and Level 42.
Yeah, Julian, again, good day. Good day in Melbourne.
Good day.
Yeah.
Nice.
For our listeners, if you've never been to Melbourne, Australia, they probably have the best coffee and best food in the world.
Have you been there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Have you?
Yeah. Love Melbourne. Love Melbourne.
Yeah, very nice place.
My first question, of course, being a Level 42 podcast, is how did you get involved with Level 42?
Well, it all came through Nick Kershaw. We were doing, was it the first album or the second album? I think it was the second album, The Riddle.
Right.
And Nick had always loved Mark's bass playing. And he said, I want Mark to play on this track. I'm trying to think of the track at the moment.
It's probably Easy.
Easy is the name.
Easy. Oh, that's the one. Yeah, there you go. I don't have to look it up. Anyway, there was a funny thing happened there when we were doing. Mark came in and we're all very friendly, and we set up his bass amp in the in what was the copy room just down the corridor from the studio, because I don't know why we did that. Can't remember. Was there a drummer playing at the same time? I can't remember. There might have been. I think Charlie might have been playing drums. And he brought his then wife, Sherry, or Cherry, I think her name was. And so anyway, we get everything set up and we're running down the track, a couple of rehearsals, and in comes Sherry and she says, oh, look, I'm trying to read this book and there's all this noise going on down the corridor. Can you just turn it down a little bit? Serious. Anyway, we couldn't believe what she was saying. She obviously didn't know what was going on, but that was just a funny story I'll never forget. Anyway, I think it's probably because we all got on, me and Mark got on really well, and that's how we ended up coming along to do World Machine.
Wow. Do
you remember, I think you were there when they were first laying tracks for World Machine.
We recorded all the tracks.
Yeah. So did you know at that point this was going to be a change of direction for the band? Like they'd done,
I gathered that it was a change of direction because I loved their earlier records. Like, was it Hot Water and a couple of the other ones? I loved them. Mm-hmm. And I thought, this is a bit more accessible for most people, this what we're doing. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I never knew what was going to happen in the end. But we all got on really, really well. And we had a great time in the studio. The best thing about them is that they had no problem playing anything. The musicianship was just, oh, my God, how does every single one of these guys know what to do on their own instrument? They're bloody amazing.
No, I was going to say, I guess I would imagine you doing this work for so long, you probably get in some situations where it's take after take after take.
Oh, many times.
Yeah.
Not with Nick. Not with Nick Kershaw.
Yeah.
That was all pretty easy, and everybody we used on his albums were totally professional. But Level 42, God, blew my mind on their musicianship.
You know what's cool about that, Julian, is before World Machine, legend had it that they really just tried to work out songs from jams. Whereas for World Machine, they kind of came with songs, right?
That's right, yeah.
Did you see, particularly with Something About You, an evolution of that song from basic track to...
No, it was all ready to go.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they were really well organised. Wally had it all... in his sequencer, everything was done to a sequencer, and it was just completely organised. There was no mucking around. It was effortless.
Was there an ask of you to make it sound different than previous albums?
No.
Really?
It was what it was. It is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was what it is. How it came out, I did my bit. They did all their bits, and it also all gelled together.
Now, if I'm not, well, maybe I'm wrong. Did you work with Wally before World Machine?
No.
I think, okay.
No.
I thought I saw that you had remixed a track.
His album. I remixed Mr. Inspector. Is that
Chief
the one?
Inspector, right?
Chief Inspector, and then I think there was a tune called, I believe, High Life that you remixed.
High Life, yeah. Yeah, that was off his album. He was doing an album, doing it all on Sinclair, so he pretty much mixed everything himself already, and I think I tried. Don't think whether I got it any better than his mix or not. I don't know. sometimes when you're doing stuff for a bloke like that, it's sort of pointless because they're so on the case anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
I was wondered, the direction of World Machine, but which, by the way, we're focusing a lot on that, Julian, now because it is the 40-year anniversary of World Machine, at least in the UK, anyway.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
1985.
Oh, I thought it was a little bit earlier than that. But anyway.
Well, that was when it was released, so you might have been working early.
Yeah.
But with that change of direction, I know Mark has been interviewed and quoted as saying he wanted the bass to take a kind of a back seat to the songs.
Definitely.
Was there a party to like, oh, come on, give me something here? Or
Yeah, there was. But no, he did sort of cover it up a little bit because Wally pretty much always had something going along with Mark's bass. And he did. I do think I remember him saying, "Oh, you've got the bass too loud." So, but anyway, yeah, that's. I do remember that being part of the deal.
Yeah. We were talking to Wally not too long ago, and I had remarked upon how great that album sounds. And it sounds like you're being a little passive about your input on that, but Wally said it was all you who changed the sound.
Rubbish.
You did.
It is, they were just a dream band to record.
Mm-hmm.
A dream. All the sounds were there. There was a bit of faffing with the drum sound because Phil's pretty particular about things. Well, let's try this snare, and do you think that bass drum's good enough? And
Yeah.
Anyway, we got all through that, and we had quite a good little stone room at Maison Rouge where we recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
And are you into technicalities or?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I use these PZM mics, which are mics that get stuck to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kind of flat. Yeah.
You do?
Yes. Yes.
All right. And I had a combination of those and a pair of U87s on it. And it sort of worked for his cymbals and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Quite hard to record his drums because he has them really tight,
Yeah.
really high-pitched.
He liked that Stuart Copeland tight snare type thing.
Yeah. But they were an amazing combination, Phil and Mark,
Yeah.
together. God, I remember going to Mike's wedding.
Oh, tell us about that.
Mike had a lovely, really beautiful wedding.
Yeah.
With Sam. She came riding in on a horse. And anyway, after the whole thing was the coming together was all done, we went to have drinks and this and that. And Mark and Phil, who weren't totally good friends at the time,
Mm-hmm.
just sort of played together, played some songs. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely amazing. And I never realised the connection musically between those two guys, how strong it was.
Yeah.
It was absolute magic. Brought tears to my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Push and pull.
It's sort of symbiotic and also oil and water.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a unique experience hearing them play like that. I mean, I noticed it when we were recording the albums, but hearing it live in a room, it was just amazing. I'll never forget it. And what is it that makes them sound so good together?
Mm-hmm.
Unreal. Just the connection, this microseconds of who hits what where, when. Wow.
You had a lot of drummers in that band, though. I think 3 of them were drummers.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Mark was a drummer.
Yeah.
And Mike was too, yeah.
Mike was too, yeah.
Mike was a drummer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he went to school with
I'm going to ring him and ask him about that. Why didn't you tell me you were a
He
drummer?
recorded some drums on his last solo record.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it changes too. Yeah. Excellent.
I think what we were getting at, though, was as fans, we could hear a difference in the sound of the recording from the previous albums where the quality, in my opinion, it kind of went up. Like, oh, this is really
I totally agree with that.
different.
one. Yeah.
Not so much a production side. Obviously, the production is different because they were going for a more poppy or accessible sound. But the quality of the recordings really kind of,
Oh, that's nice.
for lack of another word, took it to another level.
Because one of the previous albums was done by a hero of mine, Ken Scott.
Ken Scott. That's right.
Yeah.
Massive hero of Ken Scott. Huge influence on me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Probably the biggest of all of them.
Really.
Yeah. I love those two first Supertramp albums. Absolutely. That's the one that just got me. And then he went off and did Billy Cobham.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Stanley Clarke. I just loved the sound he got, and that was huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In past podcasts, when we've talked about the World Machine album, I have said that my favorite sonic moment of the band and their entire canon was a song called "Lying Still."
Oh yeah,
the last song. And I mentioned that to Wally, and he said that was you too. I mean, he said it was Julian.
There was a fair bit of emotion involved in mixing that one up. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you recall about that?
Did I use a long reverb on it? Was that one with the long reverb? I love the wrong. I've just finished another podcast to an English bloke.
Okay.
And I was just telling him that I love the Lexicon 224 with the long reverb.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one I used on. I was using it a lot, actually. Well, hang on, the boss is going.
Okay.
Going. She's had enough.
That's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It was quite emotional, that song. I don't know why, but
it's gorgeous. It's sonically gorgeous. The whole thing
is.
And even the way that it ends with the kind of the gated snare, and it fades out until I guess a final ride cymbal ping. It's gorgeous,
I'll have to have a listen to that.
You should.
For a long time.
I just wanted to ask one more question about, you mentioned Maison Rouge.
Yeah.
And there's kind of this famous story where I guess it was an SSL desk.
Oh, yeah.
Studios. Can you tell Winston and Mike the story about what you and Mark did?
What was the name of the band that were in the other studio?
I think it was Blur.
Blur, that's right. Yes,
Okay.
They were in Studio 1, I think. We were in 2. Anyway, one night they said, "Oh yeah, can we? Do you mind if we come into Studio 2 for one night and do some drums?" Because there wasn't a proper drum room in the other room. And we said, "Yeah, of course, no worries." Anyway, we thought we'd play a little trick on them, and the SSL has got lots of little solo and cut buttons.
Solo and cut. That's right.
All the way along the desk. And me and Mark thought, we'll just take the piss and we'll swap the solo and cut buttons.
Oh my God.
So every time they pressed a solo button, it cut the instrument.
Oh.
And every time they pressed the cut button, it soloed the instrument.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
that
it
is
was good fun.
brutal.
Yeah, they weren't unhappy about it.
Welcome to the big leagues.
I don't
guys.
think so.
They eventually sorted it out, I hope.
Yes, they did. Yes, it became quite obvious after a few presses of the button.
That's hilarious.
Julian, in doing my research, I came across a quote, and I wish I had noted who said this about you, but they said something about, if you're truly an 80s fan and loved 80s music and all the 80s ear candy, that you were the sweetener of the 80s. I have to say, just doing my research, you had a tremendous impact on the whole sound of the 80s with all the artists that you worked with. I mean, Bob mentioned some of them: Frankie Goes to Hollywood, ABC, Bob Marley, Breathe, Cliff Richards, Go West, Kate Bush, Peter Gabriel, Seal, etc.
Cliff Richard was the 90s, actually. Sorry.
90s. Okay.
Anyway.
It's absolutely amazing to think that you had that brush of sound throughout the 80s.
I did learn it from two masters. I learned all that stuff from Trevor.
That's what I was going to ask you. I wanted to know John Milner and Trevor Horn.
John Milner was the first little studio I had a job at in 73 or 74.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anything about him?
No, I don't.
Well, he had a little studio that he built himself in Chelsea, in Fulham Road, Chelsea. It's quite a posh area. And he built the desk himself. He'd set up the studio himself. His father-in-law had paid for it all. And John was an ex BBC engineer and used to do the sound. Oh, there's a lady just walking back through the... I don't want to hear any more.
Mike's got dozens of them there.
He's got... Anyway, John was used to do Top of the Pops, for the sound of Top of the Pops and all that. He's a very traditional recording engineer. And he'd set up this studio, built a little desk by himself. He was very talented.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of go in the guy. Wasn't really wanting to move up the ladder or anything. He was happy where he was. And I just somehow got a job with him. And he had hardly had it. When I first moved in, I was getting paid 15 quid a week.
Mm-hmm.
It was not much. And we hardly had any work, which wasn't a problem because his father-in-law was bankrolling the whole thing. Anyway, he taught me all the basics about mics, what mics to use, what to do with this, and how the desk worked, as I'd seen a desk, but never worked one. And then there was hardly any work. As I keep saying, there was no work. The occasional voiceover, this and that. And so I had a lot of time just to muck around with some 8-track recordings that we had there, and I'd try and mix them and do this and that. Anyway, I built up quite a lot, and I did quite a few bands. And he was a big influence on me. And then towards the end of the 70s, I've been working with a guy called Robert Rosenberg, who was actually an accountant. And he was actually Jill Sinclair's accountant at SARM. And he used to do some demos with a New Zealand girl. They do some demos for publishing and stuff. And one day he came in early in mid-78 and he said, oh, look, Jill and John Sinclair are looking for another engineer. They've just built the first 48-track studio in Europe, and why don't you go and see her? Anyway, that was the story. And then Trevor came on the scene, and it was really Trevor. Me and Gary. Do you know Gary Langan? Have you heard of Gary Langan?
I've read him. I don't know who he is. But...
Yeah, he did the Yes albums.
Right.
He did a couple of big Yes albums.
90125.
Yeah, he recorded all that and mixed half of it and did the single. I was only speaking to him last night. Anyway.
No kidding.
So I ended up at SARM. I was assisting for a little while, assisting Gary and other engineers who'd come in. And eventually I started to engineer myself. And Trevor came on the scene, and that's when the real serious training came in, because it was full on for both me and Gary.
Mm-hmm.
It was doing the Yes albums was like engineering gymnastics. It was bloody hard work, and we were working really hard.
The production in Owner of a Lonely Heart is amazing. I mean,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you mentioned about in your bio on your page, you talked about going from the 8-track to the 48 tracks and then to the digital solid state system as well. I also wanted to ask you, did you go to the UK from Australia for experience? Is that why you?
No. Mum, I lost my father when I was 8.
Sorry.
And then Mum found she went through a few boyfriends along the way until I was just about to finish school. I was pretty useless at school. I went to quite an expensive private school here because my father went there. So I managed to get a grant for some. I can't remember how it all worked. It was called a bursary, and so it didn't cost too much money. And just as I was about to finish school, Mum met a British bloke who was a diplomat down here in Melbourne. And I think she always wanted to go to England. And so they got married. And then as soon as they got married, he somehow ended up being sent back to England, transferred back to England. Mum wanted to go. Took both of us over, both me and the sister over there. And the first year or two was just like miserable for me because I just wanted to be back at home with all the mates who finished school and they're all doing their year off. They're all, doing their camping trips, their surfing, all that sort of stuff. And I'll never forget when we landed in England, it was February, which is probably one of the worst. We landed there and he picked us up. The plane was late and he picked us up about midnight and we drove through a town called Slough.
Yeah.
Have you been to Slough?
Yes, and my buddy Andy, who's staying with us, has nothing good to say about Slough at all.
Well, it's not too bad these days, but in those days it was, God, what am I? And it was raining, it was sleeting, it was miserable, and we're driving through this place called Slough, which is actually quite a high-tech place now, but in those days, oh my God, I thought, what am I getting myself into? And that frame of mind stayed with me for a year and a half at least. I couldn't get a job. I tried to get a job in a studio. Of course, it's only then that I realised I really didn't have any idea what I was talking about, when I did the interviews. And I ended up doing sound for conferences, for big company conferences.
Right.
Did sound and slide shows in those days. They didn't have TVs. And then there was a customer. I said, I've got to get, one of my customers was a really nice guy. I was recording voiceovers for him. I said, I've got to get out of here. I need a job in a studio. He said, I know somebody who's just built a studio, and that was John Milner.
Wow.
So I went and saw John, finally got the job. As soon as I got the job, I was on 15 quid a week. I had a couple of months, and then we had something called the 3-day week in the UK, where the coal miners went on strike, and there wasn't enough coal to run the power stations. So we only had 3 days of electricity. That's all they could do. So my pay went down to 10 quid a week, which was not great. Anyway, we got through that, and that's how I ended up with John, and all sort of came from there. But once I realised I was in the UK and that this was an opportunity, because I was always desperate to become a recording engineer since the age of 12. I thought, well, I'm here now. I might as well try and go for it. And I was obsessed.
So, Julian, this might be a dumb question, but is this a direction you wanted because you were a great technician, or do you love the music?
Music.
Okay.
And the recording side of things.
Yeah.
I loved it, but I wasn't good on the technology. My good friend Ian Mackenzie, who I went to school with, we both got into this since about the age of 12. He was good with the technology, and I was good with the musical side of it. He actually became a very successful recording engineer here in Melbourne in the 70s and had quite a few hits. So we both went our different ways. He ended up owning a really big studio in the late 90s. When was it? early in the 90s, I think, called Metropolis Studios.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And strangely enough, my friend Gary and my two other friends built another Metropolis Studios in London. So I had the two best friends, both had studios called Metropolis. I'm not
They're
doing
both
that.
Superman
I'm
fans.
doing that. Yeah, it was really strange. Both at the same time.
Wow.
The two best friends had a studio each called Metropolis, completely independently.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions about songs on World Machine that we were curious about. I was speaking to the other day a big fan named Simon Carson, who's helped with reissues of the L42 material and things of that nature. And the last podcast we did was a sort of a retrospective of the 40th anniversary of World Machine.
Mm.
And we kind of was picking our favorite songs, and two of my three, World Machine and then Sleep on My Heart. But I had a question because we were talking about like my favorite mix of World Machine. I'm sorry, Something About You was this CSISA mix.
What?
It's SISA. It's a
This is
CISA mix
funny.
credited to you. And I always wanted to know, like, well, what the hell does that mean?
I don't know what it means.
You do?
Hang on, I'm looking it up now. I'm just looking. I got to find it. Library. Which one are you talking about now?
Something About You. Well, I Sleep on My Heart is my favorite remix on that album. But I don't think
Remix.
we're wondering if you did that because it's not really credited.
Sorry, is this a 12-inch remix or is it a remix?
12-inch remix.
Oh no, Shep Pettibone did that.
Well, he did Something About You, but there's one that came out as a single for Something About You anyway, credited to you. SISA mix. And the I Sleep on My Heart one, it doesn't say anyone. We were just curious if that was a...
Well, I did the mix that was the single. I did the mix. It was on the album, which is the hit single.
Yeah, this was a little different, but it definitely on the record, it credits you.
Win, didn't SISA stand for something?
Yeah, so Simon actually he sent me a press release when Mark was doing some promotional stuff in Canada, and Mark actually explained what it stands for. And I'll read that to you if you like.
Hang on, let me just see if I can find it.
Okay.
Here we go. Extended version. That's let me see if it'll play.
Yep, that's it.
Well, I don't remember doing that. Sounds like one of mine, but I don't remember it.
Well, it's really good. I'm a huge Shep Pettibone fan. I used to DJ.
That's not Shep Pettibone.
I know this is you, and I prefer this one over Shep's mix.
I didn't like Shep Pettibone's mix.
Yeah, well, it was definitely something. If you're at the disco and you want to dance,
it was definitely
your mix. I can just listen to. It's a great version of the song.
Well, I'm gonna have to buy this now because it's on Apple Music. I'm gonna have to buy it now and put it on the phone so I can listen to it in the car. Now look, you made me spend $2.19.
It's worth it. Well, I'm gonna read you what Mark said. The mix, why the mix was named SISA. Okay.
Go on then.
So he says the SISA mix, incidentally, was named after engineer Julian Mendelsohn. It stands for Self-Indulgent Stroppy Australian Mix.
Right, I'll be ringing him after I've finished this, and I'll be giving him a hard time.
And he says he may have mixed it, but he didn't know what the title meant. I believe he's since been told what it means, although
no, I haven't. I don't know anything about it.
Well, there you go. So now you can call him up and blame us.
Well, I definitely look forward to listening to that because I don't remember doing it. I mean, I'm sure we did do one. It's going to go into my library of
there you go
5,500, 6,000 songs on the phone that I
On
listen
the
to.
phone. There you go.
Really?
I only listen in
And
the car.
if you ever find out if you actually did the "Sleep on My Heart" remix, that would be wonderful because that's a really because that wasn't a single, but there was a remix on one of the other songs that it was like the B-side, but it's a great
Sleep on
remix.
My Heart. How does
I
that
Sleep
go?
on My Heart.
I'll play it on the phone. Oh yeah, great track. This is one where he's got his bass quite loud.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is the album mix? I'm listening to it. Is there another mix of it?
Yeah, there is a one that's just titled Remix that was on the flip side of a couple of songs.
That's right.
Right. Well, I'm gonna sleep. I'm gonna write all this down. I'm gonna look them up after. I'll be interested to see if it's something I did or somebody else did. Anyway, very interesting.
Julian, again, the remixes you've done with Level 42 and other artists. In fact, the Frankie Goes to Hollywood Relax remix, one of my top 10 of all time.
Well, that was very lucky that I got that. It's only because Steve Lipson was so exhausted after Trevor had made him work so hard on it. He couldn't do it. He'd lost it in the mix, which happens so often with everybody. That you're so exhausted from from getting to where you've got that you can't see what you're supposed to be doing. And he was really close on the mix. It's just that he couldn't get the vocal to sit properly. And Ian Cooper, who was Trevor's mastering engineer and many other people's mastering engineer, said, "Look, Trevor, it's just not working. The vocal's not sitting right." And that was, Trevor had been on Relax for a year. A year he'd been on it, non-stop, pretty much non-stop. 3 or 4 different versions, never happy. And the record company were just killing him to get this thing out because he'd spent so much money. And I remember I was working at Sam East on a Sunday, late Sunday, and Trevor rang up and he said, "What are you doing in the morning?" Oh, no, he didn't say, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm coming in the morning. We're going to have to do a quick remix of Relax. Be in at 8 o'clock," because he was desperate too. So got in there at 8 o'clock, mixed the single in about 3 hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours. And we had a quick go at the B side, which was Ferry Across the Mersey. Didn't quite get that. Anyway, we hopped in the car. Trevor drove across London, and he was a terrible driver. It was one of the scariest drives I've ever had in my life. We got to Ian Cooper. Ian puts it on, and he says, "Oh, yeah, that's better, Trevor. Why didn't you do this in the first place?"
Wow.
And that was that. It was very quick.
Yeah, you actually. I was going to ask you when you're doing remixes, Level 42, etc., that you've done. What's your process? How do you take a song that you've done in the studio, the studio version, and then what kind of mental process do you have to make a remix?
I have no idea.
That's the golden secret, isn't it?
I don't know.
All right.
Well, this single had taken a year to record with many different versions, and the moment it all started to come good was when Andy Richards got involved, the keyboard player and programmer, and Steve Lipson. That's when it all started to come good. And JJ, the Fairlight bloke.
Right.
Ever heard of JJ?
Yeah, Jack Zalek or something to that effect?
Yeah, Jack Zalek. Yeah, I can never say it. And that's the closest I've ever heard.
I assume that's how you pronounced it. I just guessed.
I think that's right, actually. And I've never been.
I know
I've known
he
him
was on all the Art of Noise stuff. And
yeah. I've known him for 40 years, and I still don't know how to say his name. So when especially when Andy and Steve became involved, that's when it all took off. And I don't want to brag or anything, but I did suggest to Trevor that you gives Andy a go. And my very good friend Penny Morgan suggested that Steve Lipson goes and works with Trevor. And that's when that whole partnership really started.
Aye. I just have a few more questions for you, Julian. And these are kind of bullet point questions here. I did want to say that besides running in the family world machine and staring at the sun, you've done some recent work with members of Level 42, including Phil Gould's
Here's the dog.
Beautiful Wounds.
Oh,
that
there
was-
she is.
Here's Ernie. Ernie. This
Hey,
is
Ernie.
Ernie. He's here. He's very enthusiastic about anything, especially about food, because he's a Labrador.
I have a Labrador. Yeah.
Yeah, come on, out. Thank you.
Thank
Come on, get out, Ernie. Anyway, sorry, where were we
No,
at?
that's okay. I'll start over. Also, you've besides running in the family, staring at the sun, and world machine.
Oh yeah, Phil Gould. Phil Gould.
You've also done some recent work with Phil Gould on Beautiful Wounds, and also Mike Lindup's Conversations with Silence album as well. Yes.
Did I?
On my info, it says that. So, is it fake news? No, I don't know.
I don't remember that. I might have to look.
That was like
this
a
up.
piano album.
Yeah, it was like a more classical album of Mike's. I think
I
from
don't
2000
remember
and 2002. I think it was
I
2000.
don't remember that. I'll have to Google it.
No worries. No worries.
I'll look it up here. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll look it up.
That's right.
What's it called? Conversations with Silence. I don't think I did anything with that. I think he used the engineer who did the Blue Nile, the two Blue Nile albums, which were very, very high class, beautifully recorded, and I'm pretty sure he used the same engineer to do Conversations in Silence. And I do remember him coming down to my place and playing it to me, and I said I thought it sounded fantastic. Yeah.
Aye. And the last two questions I have, I was doing my research, as you do. I came across something saying that you had a 5.1 mix of Level 42's Hammersmith Odeon gig, but it didn't
That's
say
right.
what
That's why I
year
had
it
a
was.
broken leg. I had a broken leg,
Mhm.
and I couldn't go anywhere. So I set up in my lounge room back in Henley-on-Thames. I set up a 5.1 system, and I spent a week or two mixing the live thing.
Wow.
In surround sound. Didn't sound that great, actually, to be truthful. I was a bit disappointed. But I got the final DVD.
Wow.
But I had fun recording it. I had fun mixing it.
Aye. And my final questions, and again, Julian, it's been amazing and an honor for me to meet you and have this time with you today. I just wanted to get your initial impressions of some members of Level 42 that aren't with us anymore, mainly Boone Gould
Very
and
sad.
Al Murphy. Do you have any recollections of your time with them?
Alan was the most beautiful guy, and Boone was too. Beautiful. In fact, Boone passed away while I was mixing the epic Phil Gould album. That was epic. That
Beautiful Wounds.
was probably the hardest thing I've done since working with Trevor doing that album. And then Boone rang me up one day and he said, this is all during COVID. He said, oh, look, I'm going to have to take a break for a few months. Boone's just taken his own life and we'll just have to have a break. It was really, really sad. A lovely bloke, Boone. And likewise, Alan, amazing guitarist. I've got friends down here who know him, know he was his guitar playing and say, wow, you're so lucky to have recorded him. There's another one. He had this little Fender Champ. Little Fender, do you know what a Fender Champ is?
Yeah,
It's a tiny Fender amplifier. And I can't remember what guitars he had, but he'd come in, he'd set that up, and I said, is that going to be all right? I'd say, is that going to be all right? He said, yeah, it'll be fine. And it was just amazing, the sound that came out of it. Yeah, he was a lovely guy. both of them lovely, gentle people.
Now, had you worked with Alan with Go West?
Yes, I think so. I think we did some on some of the remixes. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I remember. It's funny because I usually have a good memory for that stuff, but I was really big Go West fan as well as Nick Kershaw, and it wasn't until later that I kind of went back and you start rereading the liner notes. Like, oh my God, Julian worked on all this stuff because I
did mainly 12-inch, extended mixes.
Yeah, because they Go West put out a really great 12-inch mixes album, I thought.
Is there?
And yeah, but this was like, back in the day, and I know you had done like a mix for Call Me, We Close Our Eyes, Eye to Eye, and I remember all those mixes. Yeah.
Yeah, there was another one too, the ballady thing. I can't remember what's that called. I must have They were quite hard to work with because there was always a party going in the back of the control room. Right. Always a party. Call Me went on for a week and a half or something, and there was so they just have to turn around and say, "Well, you guys fucking shut up! I'm trying to do more mix here."
Oh my God!
Now I saw them a year ago. I saw them with Nick Kershaw playing here in Melbourne. Yeah, great guys, Richard and what's his name?
Peter Cox,
Peter and Rich, amazing singer.
Yeah,
God.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite singers.
He's an amazing singer. He doesn't sound. He sounds better every time I hear him. Yeah. And
when we talk about the bands you worked with, it's interesting to say Go West was a little bit challenging, but like.
Oh no, it was challenging. It was great fun.
Great time, right?
It was really great fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't challenging in a bad way. It was just challenging because they just wanted to party all the time.
Right. So were Pet Shop Boys and Level 42 kind of more straightforward? You're just going to go in and.
Pet Shop Boys were a dream, absolute dream. Great to work with, and Level 42 the same.
I had a question about your role change, if there was any. I think there was, going from World Machine to Running in the Family, because I think you were listed as an engineer or an assistant engineer for World Machine. No,
I was the engineer on that, and then I was a co-producer on Running in the Family.
Okay,
so it was really only just a night. It was really just Mark was happy to give it to me. It just, I don't know. It was not because I particularly deserved it, but he liked to share. Always liked to share stuff with everybody else.
Do you have a favorite project you worked on with the band? Was it World Machine, Running a Family, or Staring at the Sun?
World Machine was definitely number one. Mm-hmm. Running in the Family, I wasn't happy about doing it at SAM as in Studio 3.
Mm-hmm.
So that was not quite as. I mean, it still was a fantastic record, and I was surprised it sounded really good. When I compare it with World Machine, there's not much difference really.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show that it's more the musicians than,
the sound,
where they are or who they're with for that matter,
if
you know what I mean. If you've got good musicians, that's 90% of the job done. That happened to me all the time.
You never had to, quote, polish a turd with this band, right? I mean, it was...
Never had to. No, I could fuck up a turd or... No, I could really muck up anyway, you know what I'm saying. You'd have to be a pretty useless recording engineer to muck that sort of musical excellence up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There you go.
Can I just do a little word association, Julian, with a couple of songs off those two albums and see if anything strikes you? Off Running the Family was a song called Two Solitudes, which featured a bit of acoustic guitar.
Oh, hang on. Yes.
Go ahead, grab it.
Family, I'm just going to get it out. Two Solitudes, yes. Yeah, great track.
So the guitar on that.
Funny how you can really enjoy. Sorry, it's funny you can really enjoy these things when you hear them again after a long time.
Yeah.
I wasn't enjoying it at the. I was enjoying it at the time when I was recording it. Yeah, lovely. Oh,
You've recorded so much stuff. You can't be.
Yeah, how do you
expected
keep
to-
I know.
Yeah.
And then one
Well,
last. Go ahead.
When I'm listening to my music, it's normally in the car,
Mm.
and I've got, as I said, I've got 5, 6, 7,000 songs of all stuff that I've done and stuff that I love, and I have it on the shuffle.
Oh,
I can't listen to a whole album
Right.
in one go. I just need it to swap around.
Hmm.
So every next track's a surprise, or I'll quickly move on, or I'll sort of say, "Oh fuck, I don't like that one. I'm moving on." You know?
Right.
Yeah.
I'll throw one more track out, which was a favorite of mine off the Staring at the Sun album, was a song called Man, which is like this
Yeah, man.
7-minute.
Yeah, another good one. Well, that's a bit more jazzy.
Yeah.
That man. Two Solitudes wasn't though.
Nah. I got one last one, Julian, about there was a video of at a time when you were with the band, the Live at Wembley video, where you are listed as recorded and mixed by Julian Mendelsohn. This was the Live at Wembley concert. That's what you're credited for.
Right. Were they doing just their own gig at Wembley?
Yeah.
Yes.
God, I don't remember that.
Yeah. Well.
I don't remember that. I do vaguely remember being at the back end, behind backstage outside. Maybe there was a truck. God, I can't remember that.
Okay.
So what year was that, do you think?
86.
Wembley, 86. I'm going to Google that.
Yeah, you might be owed a
I
check.
don't remember. I don't remember. I don't remember recording it, and I don't remember mixing it.
Okay.
So,
There might be a check out there waiting for you.
staying on Running in the Family, right? That's what I was saying. Staying on Running in the Family, I found something, and this could just be a silly Wikipedia error.
Right, well, there's many Wikipedia.
Yeah, because it says the credits for Running in the Family, it lists, besides you producing and engineering, it says additional backing vocals on one of the songs, The Sleepwalker.
Yes, I did sing some vocals.
Oh, see, I never noticed that because it doesn't.
Yeah, I vaguely remember helping do some backing vocals.
Really?
Oh, that's
Yes.
awesome.
I vaguely remember it.
Breaking news, because it didn't. I don't think that showed up on the sleeves of the album, but it showed up in Wikipedia. So there you go.
Yeah, I think I did. I don't know what it was. It can't have been very important.
No, come on.
And well, I mean, if they left it on there, it was good enough.
Well, I was mixing it, so I definitely wouldn't have turned it up.
Yeah, right, there you go. Well, another thing is there was a remix, and it says that you assisted in the remix of "It's Over" from that album. And the remix has, they added harmonica and a steel guitar. And I'm wondering if you recorded that, or because it looks like that was added. It's not on the album version.
It's not. Do you know where a version of it is?
Yeah, it was on the single of "It's Over."
Ah, yes, I do.
Because it says
remember
harmonica
that.
was added by someone named Harry Pitch and BJ Cole on pedal steel guitar.
BJ,
Yeah.
he's still going well, that BJ. I still see
Yeah.
him on Facebook. Doesn't look any different.
I mean, I know we're getting can't expect folks to remember stuff so long ago, but
there might be something in that.
yeah.
Vaguely, I remember. That was another great song. It's Over.
Yeah.
I love that song. Yeah, I might look that up after I'll finish with you.
Yeah, because they weren't really known for having too many people guest on a record or an album or something, and it wasn't on the album version, but it says for the remix.
Yeah, we probably had pressure from the record company. You've got to do something slightly different, or you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. I do vaguely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Julian, I told a lie. I actually have one more question.
Good. I don't care. I'm not in a rush.
And this
The
goes
dog
out
is.
this goes out to our Australian friends, oi oi oi, and our New Zealand friends, kia ora. Um, I you've also worked with other Australian bands, Pseudo Echo, which is
Yes.
fantastic. Lies or
Yes.
Nothing and Funky Town, two of my favorite songs from them.
I didn't do those.
Oh no, you did okay.
Yeah.
And
Thanks
I
for bringing that up.
did an album with them. Brian's a really good friend of mine, although I haven't seen him much recently. I did that album with them where I thought I was coming down to do an album, a pop album with them, a bit like Funky Town and all that. I was expecting, I wonder who's going to do the Fairlight programming and who's going to do this and all that. Anyway, I turn up to the studio, Metropolis Studios, owned by my best friend Ian McKenzie. I turn up, who actually helped me engineer it, and he said, "Oh, look, we're not doing what you think we're doing. We're going to do a rock album." The two brothers have decided they want to do a rock album, so I'm like, "Oh, so we do the album. Wasn't that great, really?" And then at the end, it was for RCA in New York, I think. I think it was the friend RCA in New York. So we do the album. Somehow I got I was supposed to have done 3 tracks just before Christmas, and that was all I was supposed to be doing. I wished it had been that way because the manager, who I won't say who the manager was, came in and said, "Oh, can you do the rest of the album? It's fantastic, you know." I said, "Well, I'll have to get a hold of Jill, the manager." I couldn't get hold of her, so I just went ahead with it. And then after Christmas, everything was put together. There was a contract written and all the whole thing. Anyway, RCA said, "Oh no, we're not accepting this album. It's a load of rubbish. It's not what we thought we were getting." So I'm trying to get the rest of my fee back. Couldn't get any money back. I got paid for the 3 tracks. Couldn't get the fee for the other 6 tracks or whatever it was. And big to's and fro's between both management and RCA. "Oh yeah, no, we're not going to release the album." 3 weeks later, I'm looking through Billboard magazine, and there's a review of the album. Saying it's not that bad. I still never. It was the worst. I only had 2 debts in my whole time working, and that was by far the worst.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Also, what was your work with In Excess like?
I didn't see an excess. I was just doing. I did 12-inch. I did a 7-inch of Need You Tonight, and a 12-inch of Need You Tonight. Which point they sent me a message from wherever they were and said, "We do not want anything added to what we've recorded," because a lot of people added stuff, and I rarely used added stuff. So that was actually quite a good 12-inch. I was quite proud of that. Have you heard it?
Oh yes, big In Excess fan. And next to Level 42, I saw In Excess in 1990, and it was one of the best shows I'd ever seen in my life.
Oh, they're amazing live.
Michael Hutchins and the guys were just they played for like 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah, nearly as long as Paul McCartney did last time he was here.
Yeah.
He was on for 3 hours, without a break.
Yep.
Now I would be remiss. Our Australian and New Zealand friends are sort of like our American fans of wanting to bring Level 42 to their countries. I know that they would want me to see if you have any clout at all to bring Level 42 to Australia.
I keep saying to Mark, "You'll love it down here. Please come." And he says, "Well, it's just not financially possible because they're not very well known down here. They're not very well known down here."
Right.
Yeah, maybe musicians themselves would know of them, but not in the general public.
They were due to come over in 2020, and then COVID happened, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So So
Whoever planned that should have very high tariffs put on them.
well, they're a very fair dinkum band. So yeah,
You know what I'm saying? The Chinese started the whole problem, and now they're really getting suffering.
It's the Chinese way.
The Chinese way. That was who
Very
did
good,
that?
Mikey.
Was that Level 42?
Level,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was another great track.
That was pre-Julian Level 42.
It was.
Yeah.
It's still a great track. Anyway,
Yeah, that's it.
I got just two more, I think, Julian. And it is when we were talking about Level 42, you were done with the band. You didn't work together after Staring at the Sun. So it was an album called Guaranteed, because I thought you had something to do with them going with Jacko Jackcheck on guitar.
Jacko? No, I don't think I had anything to do with it, but I did know Jacko.
Yeah, he gave you and Nick credit for. Mark was looking for a guitar player, and he said that Julian and Nick had touted Jacko, and that's what made.
Right. Oh, I didn't realize it was because of us.
Yeah, because I think you worked with Jermaine Stewart. Did you work with Jermaine Stewart at some?
Oh, Jermaine Stewart, please. Me and Pete were just beside ourselves with that mess we got ourselves into. Wasn't great. Did he ever get anywhere?
Jacko or Jermaine?
Jermaine.
I think he passed away.
Oh, really? Yeah. He was a lovely guy, but there was not a lot there.
Yeah, that's what Jacko had written in his book, actually.
Yeah.
Me and Pete couldn't wait for that one to finish, unfortunately.
And then the last question I have, Julian, if I could, as Mikey and Winston brought up, you've had so many songs that you worked on. Did you ever have a day where you're flipping the radio and you're like, yep, I worked on that one. I worked on that one. I worked on that one. Like 3, 4 in a row.
Not that many times, no. Just the occasional one. Nick Kershaw comes on the radio a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
And Relax comes on, 2 Tribes. That's about it, really.
So how do you look back on your career is kind of what I'm getting to. Like, I know you still have, you're still kind of semi-retired, right? So
I am pretty much retired now.
Okay.
I get little bits here and there.
So contribution to music, how do you feel about it now?
Oh, I don't know. I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
I did what I did, and I did it, almost always as well as I could. I don't know. I had a good time. I've come out good at the other end.
Good stories.
Lots of good stories.
Mikey, Winston, do you have anything else you want to ask you?
No, I would just say thanks because, how you feel about your career, all of the Level 42 fans that we speak to, you're very, very, very well known. And it coincides with the band becoming way more popular than they ever were when you started
They were
working.
very popular in England, though, before those 2 albums.
Right,
Yeah.
but they kind of reached really higher levels, for lack of a better pun.
I'm just going to say.
Right, yeah, it's hard to not
reached
use
level
that
70.
word.
We reached level 70.
There you
78.
go. Yeah. So, I mean, you're very well regarded amongst the fans, for the recording quality, and it takes a lot of people because obviously, bands don't pick anybody out of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
And then you keep working with a lot of these big bands. So it obviously has a lot to do with your talent. So thank you for that. And thank you for coming on the show.
As I keep saying, what's on the other side of the microphone is the most important thing. And if you've got quality at the, on the mic, it's much easier that way when people can play their instruments properly and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Becomes more of a struggle with people who can't really play properly. Right. There was quite a lot of that going on in the early 80s. Even though you might get a good result in the end, it was much harder work.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard work with Level 42. It was more joyous.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I mean. Not a grind.
Well, we're really thankful to you, Julian, for sharing your experiences and your with the band and your career. It's been awesome to talk to you, and we're really grateful. Thank you.
No worries.
Yes, thank you.
We want to thank everybody who tuned in, especially to Julian Mendelsohn. For Winston Walker, Mikey, She Cried Her Pain, I'm Bob Considine. We are leaving you now, but we'll wait to return. See you next time, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.